Hey everyone. So, have you ever really stopped to think about how we make sense of our world? I mean, how do we take this massive, spinning planet and turn it into something we can actually navigate? Well, today we're going to break down that exact system, the grid that lets us pinpoint any spot on Earth, from the middle of the ocean to your very own street. It sounds like a crazy task, doesn't it? Trying to organize a huge, round rock that's just hurtling through space. But, for centuries, that's exactly what we've been doing. We've built this amazing system to map it, to navigate it, and to give every single place a unique address. So, how in the world does it work? All right, first things first. Before you can find your way around, you need a map. So, let's start with the basics, the big ideas that turn the giant, curved surface of our planet into something we can actually understand and measure. You know how on a flat map of the world, things can get a little weird? Greenland looks absolutely massive, almost as big as Africa, which, trust me, it is not. That's because flat maps always have to stretch things out. So the only truly accurate map of the Earth is a globe. It's a perfect little miniature showing the real sizes, shapes, and distances. Now, to get organized, we needed a starting point. So geographers imagine this line wrapping right around the Earth's middle, kind of like a belt. We call it the equator. It's our 0 point, and it splits the world neatly into two halves, the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. But just one line isn't enough to find anything, right? So we added more. First, we have lines of latitude. They run east and west, parallel to the equator, and they tell you how far north or south you are. Then you've got lines of longitude, which run from the North Pole all the way down to the South Pole. They measure how far east or west you are from a special line called the prime meridian, which passes through Greenwich, England. And when you put them all together, boom, you get a global grid, giving every single spot on Earth its own unique coordinates. It's literally our planet's address system. Okay, so we have this amazing grid system. We can find any coordinate on the planet. But just knowing the coordinates on a map doesn't tell you which way to actually, walk. For that, you need to know your direction. This is the classic problem, right? You've got your map, you know your coordinates, but which way's north? To get your bearings, you need something constant, something reliable that points the same way no matter where you are on the planet. And for hundreds of years, that amazing little tool has been the compass. It's pretty cool. It uses the Earth's own magnetic field, so its needle will always point north. And once you know where north is, everything else just falls into place. You've got your four main points: north, south, east, and west, and then the points in between, like northeast and southwest. And just like that, you have a full 360-degree sense of direction. Okay, now that we have the tools to map and navigate the entire globe, let's put them into practice. We're going to zoom in on one of the most gigantic and diverse places on the planet, the continent of Africa. So, just to help you wrap your head around the sheer scale we're talking about here, Africa is the world's second largest continent, and it's home to 54 different countries. 54! That is more than North America, South America, and Australia put together. It's just an incredible mosaic of different cultures and landscapes. And here is a super cool geography fact for you. Remember those imaginary lines we talked about, the equator and the prime meridian? Well, Africa is the only continent on Earth that gets crossed by both of them, which means it's the only one that sits in all four hemispheres at the same time: northern, southern, eastern, and western. How cool is that? Africa's shape is also defined by the huge bodies of water that surround it. On its entire western side, you've got the massive Atlantic Ocean. To the east, there's the warm Indian Ocean, and up top to the north, you have the Mediterranean Sea, which has been this historic bridge connecting Africa to Europe and the Middle East for thousands of years. It is so hard to really grasp the size of some of Africa's features. So try to picture this. The Sahara Desert, that massive desert covering most of North Africa. It is so big that you could fit the entire United States inside it, the entire USA. It's an almost impossibly huge area to imagine. So, we've talked about the physical geography, the oceans, the desert. Now let's zoom in one more level and look at the political geography. We're talking about the lines that divide this enormous continent into all of its different countries. You know all those lines you see on a political map? Those are borders. They're what mark where one country's rules stop and another one's begin. Sometimes they follow a natural barrier, like a river or a mountain range. But a lot of the time, they're just lines drawn throughout history that defined everything from a country's laws to its language. Where a country is located can really shape its entire story. So, having a coastline like South Africa or Namibia is a huge advantage. It opens you up to things like global trade and fishing. But if you're landlocked, like Botswana or Lesotho, you're completely surrounded by other countries. That means you have to rely on your neighbors just to get goods to and from the sea, which creates its own unique set of challenges. So let's zoom in on South Africa as a perfect example. It sits right there at the southern tip of the continent, and it shares a direct border with 6 of its neighbors. So, South Africa's neighbors are Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and Eswatini. But look closely at that last one, Lesotho. It's what we call an enclave. It's an entire independent country that is completely, 100% surrounded by South Africa. And one last fun fact about South Africa's unique political geography. The country actually has not one, not two, but 3 capital cities. Yep. To sort of spread out the power, the administrative capital is in Pretoria, the parliament meets in Cape Town, and the judicial capital is in Bloemfontein. Pretty interesting, right? And all of this brings us back to a really big question. We've spent this whole time talking about imaginary lines, the equator, lines of longitude, the borders that separate countries. They all start as just ideas, as lines on a map. So what is it that actually makes them real? It's a great question to think about because it reminds us that the grids we draw are what end up shaping the world we all share. Thanks for tuning into this explainer.